Breaking news today.
Please subscribe and then check notification box to get all breaking news alerts.
Thanksgiving Day for many men, pushing pause on their everyday troubles and celebrating the many wonderful blessings that we've been given in our lives. But for some of the estimated 12 million plus illegals living in the United States currently, there's no resting when it comes to their cause of retaining the right to break the law. Since President Trump's persistent efforts to end the illegal gravy train, those affected have grown increasingly brazen in their attempts to garner sympathy, doing anything that will draw attention to them, even if it means ruining a national tradition. This time it was the beloved Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, and people weren't happy. 4 illegals from something called the Seed Project physically blocked the parade route, chanting, yelling and generally causing chaos. Thankfully, when it comes to something like a parade, the police don't mess around. The 3 were yanked up and physically hauled away almost immediately. The Gateway pundit reports that the 4 were working tourists toward the DACA Protection Act that President Trump recently reversed. 4 protesters, including illegal alien adults with temporary DACA protection against deportation, briefly blocked the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade in New York City Thursday morning. Police quickly removed the 4 red shirt-wearing protesters right after they sat down in the middle of the street. The protesters were detained but not arrested. Supporters on the sidewalk chanted, "Undocumented and unafraid," in protest of President Donald Trump reversing the unconstitutional DACA program for illegal aliens who entered the U.S. as children enacted by former President Barack Obama after Congress refused to grant them amnesty. These protesters seemed to believe that people would be more willing to let them stay or in some way sympathize with their cause if they were to break the law even further and disrupt something that people love. If anything, all they did was prove that they were willing to break the law when they came, and they'll be willing to break the law if they stay. Just because we have laws that protect peaceful protest, doesn't mean that they are allowed to protest any place anytime. That's just not how it works. Thankfully, they found that out the hard way yesterday. In case you were wondering just who these gems of society were, the organization they represent decided to flaunt the pictures and stories of their warriors on their Twitter account. As disturbing as all of this is, it's even more frustrating to realize that while we've gotten very used to the idea of an illegal living next door, these are Mexican nationals who are actively disrupting our events, proudly announcing their crimes and then bragging about it on the internet. Let's not let the sugarcoating make us forget what this is. That, combined with the fact that near the end of the video you can hear the supporters chanting something about a revolution in Spanish, should be enough to confirm our fears about the true intentions of many of the illegals who reside here. In preparation for Thursday's stand, a press release was issued about the protest. Undocumented youth and allies disrupt New York City's Macy's Day Parade while calling for permanent protection for all young undocumented immigrants in the country. With their lives in limbo and with congressional inaction, undocumented youth take part in civil disobedience to call on community to take fight to their districts and to Capitol Hill. New York, immigrant youth from across the country converged in New York City on Thanksgiving Day to participate in a civil disobedience action and pledge their commitment to winning permanent protection for young undocumented immigrants in the country. 4 DACA recipients and allies were removed from the parade, blocking traffic by the Macy's Day Parade. On September 5, Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, DACA, was repealed by President Donald Trump in one of the cruelest attacks on the immigrant community. Starting on March 5, 2018, 800,000 undocumented youth will begin to lose protection from deportation and their right to work. After years of commitment and sacrifice to gain their education, support and start their families, and become key contributors to their communities, politicians are standing by while they were broken apart from their families, livelihood, and community. The White House and establishment politicians are responsible for this decision. They are negotiating away the power and dignity of our immigrant community. The community is being pitted against each other, children against parents, said Catalina Santiago, one of the undocumented youth who was arrested at the Macy's Day Parade. Their aim is to make undocumented youth bargaining chips for driving our parents and our community deeper into the shadows. Undocumented youth are refusing to put our destiny in the hands of establishment politicians. We are choosing to fight for the dignity of our entire immigrant community, and that begins with us. We are your classmates, your co-workers, and your neighbors, said Hector Jeriel Martinez, one of the undocumented youth who was arrested at the Macy's Day Parade. We are not just the future of this country, but we are also the present workers that it depends on. We are millions of young undocumented students and workers who are the backbones of our schools, industries, and communities. We are calling on our community members to stand up and fight for our right to work and live in this country.